I never liked the quiet. I know that sounds strange, coming from someone who chose to live in a house so far out in the country, but it's true. The silence out here in the rural stretch of our land, miles from the nearest neighbor, it's unnerving. It presses in on you, like a weight you can't shake. But it wasn't always this way. I used to find it peaceful. It all started about 6 months ago. My husband, Ben, had always dreamed of living in the country. He'd grown up in a small town and had always spoken about how much he missed the open fields and wide sky. Our city life was beginning to wear on both of us. Too many people, too many distractions. So we packed up and found a small house on 10 acres of land. It was beautiful at first. The house sat on the edge of a dense patch of woods, with a small stream running through the property. The back porch looked out over the fields. It was everything Ben had ever wanted, and more. We had our little piece of heaven. Our daughter, Lily, was only 5 when we moved in, but she quickly took to the land. She loved running through the tall grass, chasing butterflies, and playing near the stream. We'd often spend afternoons together, sitting on the porch, just watching the sunset over the horizon. It was peaceful, idyllic, almost dreamlike. But then it started. At first, it was small things, a noise in the night, a shadow passing just outside the window when I knew no one was supposed to be there. I tried to brush it off, the wind, the trees, the house settling. I told myself it was nothing. But as the days passed, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Ben had been working late in the city more often, so it was usually just Lily and me at home in the evenings. One night, when Ben was away, I decided to go out and check on the chickens in the coop. It was well after dark, and the air was unusually still. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the only light came from the dim porch lamp. As I stepped outside, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The woods seemed different, not as familiar as they once had been. It was like something had changed. I walked to the coop quickly, my footsteps muffled by the thick grass. When I got there, I noticed something strange. The door to the chicken coop was open. It was always latched tight. I checked inside, but there was nothing wrong. The chickens were all inside, huddling together in the corner as usual. But my gut twisted with unease. I closed the door and locked it, but something didn't feel right. When I turned to go back to the house, I thought I saw a figure standing just beyond the tree line. It was too far to make out clearly, but the shape was unmistakable. A person standing there, watching. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared into the darkness, waiting for some sign, some movement. But there was nothing, no noise, no motion. I swallowed hard, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but I hurried back inside anyway, locking the door behind me. The next day, I found a strange object near the base of the old oak tree by the field. It was a small hand-carved wooden figure, no bigger than my hand. A little man, crudely made, with a twisted, crooked smile carved into its face. There was something unsettling about it, something almost wrong. I tossed it in the trash, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching me. That afternoon, I asked Ben if he had seen anyone near the house the night before. He said he hadn't, but I could tell he was starting to worry too. He dismissed it, saying that it was probably just someone passing through, but I knew better. The more time passed, the more things began to spiral out of control. The next few weeks were filled with little incidents, things that didn't make sense. The barn door was found wide open when it had been locked. The windows would be left open when we were certain we had closed them. Items would disappear only to reappear in odd places, behind the couch, under the rug, in the middle of the yard. Lily started to talk about the man who lived in the woods. She'd mention him out of nowhere, saying that he watched her play. Ben and I dismissed it at first, assuming it was just her imagination running wild. But she was persistent, speaking about him in a way that was unsettling. One day, she told me she had seen him near the stream. I asked her to describe him, and she said, "He has a funny smile, like a doll." I couldn't shake the cold knot in my stomach. Ben and I decided to set up security cameras around the house, hoping to catch whoever was messing with us. We couldn't keep dismissing it as coincidence. The unease was palpable, like something was about to snap. It was a few nights later, around midnight, when I first saw him. I woke up to the sound of scratching at the window. At first, I thought it was just the wind or a tree branch brushing against the glass. But then the scratching grew louder, more frantic. It sounded almost deliberate. I jumped out of bed and rushed to the window, but when I pulled the curtain back, there was nothing there. Just the dark, empty yard, the faint outline of the barn in the distance. But when I checked the camera footage the next morning, I saw him. He was standing near the edge of the woods, watching the house. It was the same figure I had seen before, standing motionless in the shadows. His face was pale, almost unnaturally so, and his eyes were wide open, staring directly at the camera. I felt my blood run cold. Ben was as freaked out as I was, but we didn't know what to do. The police came, but there was no evidence of anyone entering the property. No footprints, no broken fences. They chalked it up to wild animals or a prank, but they didn't understand. This wasn't just a random trespasser. This felt personal. Days turned into weeks, and the stalking escalated. One evening, I went outside to check the mailbox and found another carved figure. This one was bigger, more detailed. A woman with hollow eyes and a mouth stretched wide in a scream. I ran back inside, throwing it in the fire. Ben wanted to call a professional, but I was too scared. What if they were already too close? What if the figure in the woods was someone we knew? That night, things took a darker turn. Lily screamed from her room, and I ran to her side, my heart pounding. She was standing by the window, pointing at something in the distance. "He's out there, Mommy. He's coming." I rushed to the window, and my breath caught in my throat. There, standing in the field just beyond the tree line, was the figure, the man. He wasn't just standing anymore. He was moving slowly toward the house. I grabbed Lily, rushing to the back door, but when I opened it, I saw something that froze me in my tracks. There were more figures now, scattered in the yard, slowly advancing, just beyond the range of the porch light. Faces, too many faces, all staring, all watching. We ran. We didn't even take the car. I just grabbed Lily and ran. I didn't stop until we reached the neighbor's house, miles away, breathless, frantic. Ben caught up with us hours later. The police couldn't find anything. No traces, no suspects. It was as though the figures had vanished into thin air. We left the house after that. We couldn't stay. No matter how much Ben loved the land, it had become a prison, a place where we were hunted. We moved back to the city, but every time I close my eyes, I see them. I hear them, the figures in the dark. And sometimes, when I look at Lily, I wonder if they're still out there, waiting, watching. I'm not sure what they want, but one thing is clear, they're not done with us yet.